Welcome back again. In the previous steps for Tutorial 6, we created the geometry, set up the stock, faced the top of the part, and roughed out the pockets with a 1-inch diameter end mill. In this video, we will use remachining to finish off the pockets with a 1/8 end mill. We'll then move on and import operations from a library file to tap the two 9/16 12 holes and then finally drill the two 3/8 holes. Let's get started. Over on the left, in the Toolpath Manager, I'm going to right mouse click and hold it down on the folder icon in front of the pocket toolpath. Next, I'm going to drag the mouse below and release it. From this menu, I'm going to pick Copy After. As you can see, we have two pocketing operations. What I'm going to do is click on Parameters for this pocket operation that we've just copied. In the Toolpath Parameters page, what I'd like to do is pick out a new tool. I'm going to pick Select Library Tool and then move over to the right, and we're going to use Filter to filter out a tool for us. In the Tool Type section, I'm going to hit None and then move up to the top left corner and pick End Mill. Now moving over to the right, in the Tool Diameter section, I've got it set to equal, so that's going to stay as is, but for the diameter I'm going to input 0.125. Everything's set correct here. I'm just going to go down now and pick OK. And as you can see, it's filtered out a 1/8 flat end mill, just what we want. I'm going to pick it and then move on down and pick OK. Now this is tool number 3. I'm going to change the offset to 3, and then moving on down in the comment section, I'm going to change this to, instead of rough out, remachine. Remachine all pockets. So everything looks great here. I'm going to move over now to pocketing parameters. Clearance, retract, feed, top of stock all look great, and the depth is incremental at 0, so everything looks good here. Moving over to the right, XY stock to leave, it's set at 0.03. That's from our previous roughing operation. I'm going to change it from 30 thou to 0, as this is a finishing operation. Moving on down to pocket type, what I'm going to do is select remachining. Next, I'm going to click on the remachining button, and in this dialog box, compute remaining stock from, you can see that we have the previous operation checked. That previous operation is our 1-inch diameter end mill that we use for roughing out the pockets. Moving on down, we have a check mark against apply entry exit curves to rough passes. I'm going to leave that checked. I'm also going to check machine complete finish passes, and I'm also going to uncheck display stock. So everything looks great here. I'm going to pick OK. Now moving over to the right, I'm going to enable the depth of cuts, and I'm also going to move now into depth of cuts. Now the maximum rough step is set to 0.5. I'm going to change that to 0.05. Everything looks great here. I'm going to pick OK. Now let's move over to roughing finishing parameters. Now the cutting method is set to parallel spiral. I'm going to leave that as is. Moving on down, no check mark against minimize tool burial. That's good. And we've got it set to spiral inside to outside. So everything looks great here. I'm just going to move on down and pick OK. Now as you can see over on the left, we've got a red cross. We need to regenerate all dirty operations, so I'm just going to move on up and hit regenerate all dirty operations. I'm also going to move the insert arrow down one item, and everything looks good. Let's now move on to step 11. We're going to import from library the 9/16 tapped holes operations. Now earlier on in Tutorial 2 we saved the library, the spot drilling, and tapping for some 9/16 12 holes. So we're going to utilize those operations in this part. Over on the left hand side in the Toolpath Manager, I'm going to right mouse click, and next I'm going to select Import. Now at the very top of this dialog box, if I open up this drop down, you can see a series of different operations. In Tutorial 2 I name these operations Drill Ops, and if you look down below you can see check marks against the 3 operations: simple drill, peck drill, and tapping. What I'm going to do next is hit Import and then pick Yes, and now pick OK, and now I'm going to go and pick OK at the very bottom of this dialog box. Now as you can see, the 3 operations on the left have been imported, but at present we don't have any geometry for these 3 imported operations. So what I'm going to do is set up the geometry for the simple drill to start. I'm going to click on the geometry. From this warning I'm going to pick OK. Now over on the left in the Drill Point Manager, what I'm going to do is right mouse click and then pick Add Points. I'm going to select OK again. Now over on the left in the Drill Point Selection, what I'm going to do is pick Mask on Art, and now I'm going to move on over and I'm going to pick this circle that represents the 9/16 12 tapped holes. Now I'm going to draw a window around the whole of the part, and now to move on to the next step I'm going to move up and select End Selection. Moving back to Drill Point Selection, I'm going to pick OK. So as you can see, we've got our 2 points in. Everything looks good. I'm going to move on down and hit OK. Now as you can see now, we have 2 points in the geometry for our spot drilling. I'm going to move on up and pick Regenerate All Selected Operations, because I only have this drilling operation selected. And the X for the drilling has disappeared, so that's good. What I'd like to do now is take this geometry and duplicate it for our peck drilling. So what I'm going to do is right mouse click on the geometry and then move it on down and drop it over the geometry for the peck drill. From this menu I'm going to pick Add. Retain depth values of merged drill points. I'm going to say no, because I'd like to go in and change the depths in a moment. What I'm going to do now is click on the parameters for this drilling operation. I'm going to move over to peck drill for retract, and I need to change a few things. Clearance is OK. Retract is in absolute 0.1, that's fine. Top of stock, absolute 0, that's good. The depth, I'm going to change it from minus 1.4 to minus 0.75. I'm also going to move up and change it from peck drilling to drill counterbore. I'm going to pick OK. And again, let's move on up and regenerate all selected operations. That looks good. What I'm going to do now is copy the geometry from this drilling operation and then drop it down for the tapping. I'm just going to hover over geometry, right mouse click, and then drop it down. And then from this menu I'm going to pick Add. And for this prompt, same as before, I'm going to pick No. Let's now go into the parameters for the tapping operation. Let's move over to the second page. Clearance, retract, top of stock. I'm going to leave as is. The depth though, I'm going to change that to minus 0.5. And as you can see, cycle tap is on, so everything looks great here. Going to pick OK. And let's regenerate all dirty operations. So that's all set. Let's now move on to step 12. We're going to drill the two remaining 3/8 diameter holes. So, toolpaths, and we're going to pick drill toolpath. Again, on the left in drill point selection, I'm going to pick mask on arc, and when prompted, select arc to match. I'm going to move on down and pick this circle on the left hand side, and next I'm just going to draw a window around the whole of the part. To move on to the next step, I'm going to move up to the top right hand corner and hit end selection. Now back in the drill point selection dialog box, I'm just going to pick OK. Now it's time to pick a tool. I'm going to pick select library tool, and let's use the filter. I'm going to pick none, followed by selecting the icon for drill. And as you can see in the tool diameter section, equal is set up, so that's good, and the diameter is at 0.375, just what we want. I'm going to go down the bottom now and pick OK. There's our tool, successfully filtered out. I'm going to pick it, and next I'll pick OK. This is tool number 7. I'm going to change the length offset to 7, and then in the comment, drilling the 3/8 diameter holes. So everything looks great here. Let's move over to the next page, tapping. Well, we're not tapping, so the first thing we need to do is change the cycle from tap. I'm going to change it to peck drill, and the peck is set at 0.2, so that's good. So the clearance is set to 2, that's good. I'm also going to activate use clearance only at the start and end of operation. Retracts at 0.1, top of stock absolute 0.1. I'm going to leave that as is. The depth, I'm going to change it to -1. And let's also turn on the tip comp, and let's move into tip comp. Now as you can see, the breakthrough amount is 0. I'm going to change that to 0.1. I'm going to pick OK, and everything looks great here. Let's pick OK. Let's verify all the toolpaths that we've completed. I'm going to pick select all operations. And let's move over now, go into verify. Just slide this dialog box up. I'm going to slow the speed down. I'm also going to activate stop on tool change. I'm going to move up to the top, hit the machine button, and then hit it again. So first up is our facing operation. As you can see, I've paused on the tool change. I'm going to go up and hit machine again. Next up is our 1-inch diameter end mill. Roughs out the pockets. We're leaving 30 thou on the walls. Next up is our 1/8 end mill. I'm just going to speed this up. This is where we use remachining. There's the left pocket finished, and then moving over to the right. I'm just going to slow it down again. Going to hit the machine button. Spot drill those 2 holes. Drill out the holes. This next operation, we're tapping both those holes. And then finally we drill the 2 3/8 diameter holes. I'm just going to pick OK. That completes this video segment. Thanks so much for watching.